Hello, Exeter, and today we have Emma Stratton.
College, so up, and then after that I bent over.
Pleasure to have you on show one.
Hi, Garrett. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
It's great whenever we have people here on our show. So, you have been the director of Exeter's Independence Museum. So that's exciting because I guess Exeter has a unique history too, like according to all of that. I don't live here. I don't really know this area too well. I've only been here for like a year, but take me to school.
Yeah, sure. So, I'm the director over at the American Independence Museum, which is right in downtown Exeter. I've been there for 6 years now, and we focus on Exeter's Revolutionary War history. And the reason we do that is that Exeter was the capital of New Hampshire during the Revolutionary War. A lot of people don't know that. So we have about 3,000 objects in our collection that all relate to that time period. And we have two 18th century buildings that we own and operate, the Ladd Gilman House Museum and Folsom Tavern. So the Ladd Gilman House is also unique because it's got a great connection to the Declaration of Independence as well.
Interesting. That's pretty cool. I think one of the first videos I saw, like when I was reviewing content here for the TV station, was a quick clip of Julie Gilman throwing on the trifold.
Tri-corner hat, yes.
Yeah.
One of those, I think that was probably from our American Independence Festival that we host every July. So to connect it to the Declaration, we celebrate our 4th of July on July 16th here in Exeter or the Saturday closest to that, because that's the day the Declaration actually arrived here in the Capitol at the time. And the gentleman that lived in our Ladd Gilman house, John Taylor Gilman, was elected to read it to the citizens of Exeter from the steps of the old townhouse. So the first time anyone in New Hampshire would have heard the words of the Declaration of Independence would have been from his mouth here in Exeter. So that's really cool to think about, a neat connection to our history. And we have that original printing of the Declaration in our collection at the museum.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, a lot of history here.
Wow. Okay. Bringing it close to home.
Absolutely.
That's cool. So, I mean, like of all things or places, how did you end up being the director at our Independence Museum?
That's a great question. I have a background in history and American studies. Then I went to graduate school for my museum studies master's degree. So I was able to kind of combine those two loves of museums and history. And before this position, I was actually living down in Washington, D.C., where I'd been for 7 years and working at a historic house museum doing public engagement work, so public programs and marketing, and moved up here to be closer to my family. I grew up in Massachusetts and was looking for other positions at historic sites in the area, and this one was available. And I'd actually visited the Ladd Gilman House at the American Independence Museum probably in like 2006, so quite a while ago, so I knew of it. And I interviewed, really loved the board and loved the staff and the mission, and was really excited by the work. So I had already moved up here and was looking for a job, and it was just fate, you might say, that I ended up here.
Yeah. Actually, Emma.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure you loved all the surprise history that came with Exeter.
Yeah.
So do you have any stories, like the first things that you learned about this town, about this area that really stuck out to you as a historian?
Yeah, well, certainly learning about the connection for the Declaration to Exeter and specifically to our museum was amazing to me. I feel like our museum has all these kind of hidden gems in the collection. So our copy of the Declaration of Independence that we have is called a Dunlap broadside, and it's the first official printing of the Declaration, printed on the night of July 4th in Philadelphia, sent out to all the colonies. And we have one here, and it's the only one in New Hampshire. And there are only 26 known to exist in the entire world, and we have one here, the American Independence Museum. I was like, oh my goodness, this is really neat. So I love that history and being so close to that tangible history, actually having that object in the collection. We also have 2 working drafts of the Constitution, and that was something I had never really thought about. I've always just, the Constitution is the law of the land. It is what it is. But to see the writing process and the thought process that went into it in the drafts that we have is fantastic. In one of the earlier drafts, they talk about the presidency being 1 7-year term and it's elected by Congress. It's not even that the people would vote for the presidency. You're like, that changed quite drastically in the next few iterations. So it's really fascinating to see it as a working document. And beyond what our museum has in its history, I mean, the connection that, the building we're sitting in now, that Abraham Lincoln spoke here, the connection to the Republican Party, and even learning about the earlier history of the area with the indigenous people that were here. We were a part of the Indigenous People Day celebration in October, so hearing about what this area was like for thousands of years before the settlers came is also really, really fascinating to me. And we did some archaeology on our property a few years ago, and they found an arrowhead dated back 3,000 years. So people have been on our site of the Ladd Gilman House for 3,000 years. So really interesting to think about it in that capacity as well, just how long people have been here in what we now call Exeter.
That's pretty exciting. It's also like a very mind-blowing thing.
Yeah, I can't quite conceptualize 3,000 years, but it's a long time, yeah.
It's actually kind of funny. Someone gave me, I think it's dating back to 3,500. Yeah, it was Bronze Age, early Bronze, an arrowhead made out of stone from the Minoan ruins.
My goodness. I know, it's fantastic when you actually see those objects that have survived all that time.
I know.
It is mind-blowing in a way, so.
Yeah, it's interesting when you're able to really hold history.
Yeah.
So when you jumped from DC to Exeter, not only is it just, like a mild shift going from a city to a small town.
Yeah.
When you were working there, did you ever get any of that experience as well, being able to get hands-on with history?
Yeah, absolutely. Working in the museum world and being a staff member, we're all trained in handling collections, so I am very lucky in the sense that I've been able to physically touch history for a lot of the objects I've come across in my collection, in the collections I worked with. Before, when I was down in DC, I was in a historic house that was built in 1892 with all original furnishings. So got to not only touch and hold history, but kind of live in it, because it was the whole home and all the furniture that was in it that was really special. And here at Ladd Gilman House, with all of our objects dating back to 18th century, there's the opportunity to really feel and touch history. And we're trying to replicate that for visitors as well. We have a lot of replica items from that time period that we have out that you can pick up and touch and feel what, playing cards felt like at that time, or currency felt like at that time, or the different materials they used to stuff mattresses, which included straw, so you can see how comfortable that is. So we try to make it as hands-on as possible, because that is such a fantastic way of learning, is being able to pick up and touch and feel the history in your hands.
Nice.
Yeah.
I feel like we might have to do a special when I go over and test out all the different bedding materials.
Yes, exactly. We have 3 different types, so you can rate them all and tell us what you think. Yeah.
Which one makes Garrett's back hurt the most?
I know. That's always the question with a lot of those colonial era items, whether it's beds or the outfits as well. So we'll have to get you into some colonial clothes too and see what you think. Yeah.
All right. I think Hillary spent 1 year, one of our former employees, wearing an outfit, wearing a colonial piece an entire festival. Yes,
she did. So Hillary we did outfit her for the festival in 18th century gear, and it's hot on a July day to be in all those layers and a full-length dress. So yeah, I don't know how they did it at the time, but they survived.
A lot more rugged than us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's kind of funny. I do a lot of hiking, and I think about how rugged people must have been back then, because they wore wool all the time, or linen.
Yeah.
And then they would do something like to get a vantage point of the area,
Mm-hmm.
so they could draw a map. They would have to hike up a mountain in heeled leather boots
Yep.
as well. And there wasn't anything as filtering out water, so they just
Nope.
had alcohol to drink.
I know. Sometimes alcohol was some of the safest of the beverages of the time to drink because it had, especially with beer, it had been cooked, so it would cook off any of the disease that might be in the water. So, yeah, it's interesting to think about that and the fermented foods that you could have. And it's really interesting when you think about all the adjustments they had to make to really survive that time and just the disease and what they did and did not know about germs and disease and all of those things. So
Yeah.
it's one of those times it'd be interesting to live in, but also, without modern medicine, it might be a kind of scary time to live then.
Probably.
Yeah.
Curious, what is the most interesting thing you've found on fermented foods?
Gosh, that's a great question. We did a workshop on it a few years ago, and I feel like, the fermentation process can be used for anything. So you can ferment fruits. It was just a way of preserving things through the winter, and they had realized that made them last longer. So we had made some recipes, and they used to ferment with, what did they make back then? It was like a salad back then was essentially fermented foods. Like it wasn't fresh lettuce necessarily, but was a fermented, or it was sometimes in what we would now consider like a jello or a gelatin, but all these different means they had to preserve food at that time. So it's more the recipes and the combination of foods that are interesting from that time period.
Okay, a salad sitting in fermented gelatin.
Yeah, preserved foods were a big thing. And think of how long the winters are here in New England. So you really had to stretch that food out. Yeah.
Okay. Glad I have refrigeration now.
I think we're all very glad to have refrigeration and things like, filtered water. Yes.
Filtered water, refrigeration. We don't have to wear wool clothing all the time.
It's a choice to wear wool clothing. Yes, exactly.
I guess this year I might not have that choice. If I'm covering.
Yes.
I'll have to wear an entire wool outfit.
We might have some linen for you. Linen's more for the summer.
Yeah.
Wool's for the winter, but
Okay.
yeah, we'll see if we can dig up some linen clothes for you.
With a powdered wig too.
Well, yeah, we can get you fully outfitted. Whatever you want, Garrett.
Okay. Sounds colorful.
Yes, indeed.
Perfectly timed fate.
Exactly.
All right. So I take it that when you moved here, this whole area probably had a good impression on you.
Yeah, it did. What really surprised me was how little I knew of Exeter or had ever heard of it and how wonderful it was. The kind of quaint downtown with all the shops and restaurants. And for a small town, there's actually a lot going on. So when I moved to the area, I got involved with the YMCA, which was fantastic. I loved all the fitness classes they did. Met a really great group of friends through the YMCA that I'm still friends with 6 years later. Loved being near the beach, loved being near the mountains, just having kind of everything within a few hours drive was wonderful. So yeah, it was, I didn't know much about the area when I took the job, and I've continually been pleasantly surprised by it the longer I'm here.
Very cool. Now, we had Tanisha Johnson on the show once.
Yeah.
So you worked with her.
So I know her through, the Y, and we've certainly worked with them through the Independence Museum as well.
Nice.
Which has been great. They've been fantastic community partners of ours. So
And did you do the YMCA every
I wish I wouldn't embarrass myself like that publicly, but maybe on occasion I can pull that out. But yeah, they've been great partners of ours to work with. We've started working with Exeter Public Library. So it's just a wonderful community to be a part of with so many rich resources. You all have been fantastic about covering our festival every year and helping us out with other filming of programs and things. So it's just a wonderful community to be a part of.
Nice. So I think we kind of might be reaching near our time, but is there any last words or anything you want to share?
Yeah, just that the Independence Museum will open at the beginning of May. We're open Wednesday through Saturday from 10 to 4. The festival will actually be on July 16th this year, which we're really excited about. And anyone who's interested in learning more about our museum can go to independencemuseum.org and see everything that we have planned coming up for the season. So we hope to see everyone from town at the museum this year.
All right, thank you, Emma, again. You heard it at Exeter. If you wish to be in the spotlight or recommend somebody, you can contact us at extvg@exeternh.gov. Thank you, and have a great day.